Hey there, how's it going? It is your muscle building coach, Lee Hayward, with a live video chat for the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. And the way this video chat will work is over the next hour, I'm going to be hanging out here and answering any questions that you have with regards to building muscle, losing fat, any specific challenges that you are dealing with when it comes to your workout or nutrition program. If there's anything in terms of injury prevention that you want to discuss, anything at all fitness related like that, go ahead, post those questions and topics of discussion in our video chat window there, and I'll do my best to help you out in any way that I can during our chat today. So before we get started, I always like to do a little audio and video check. So for those of you who are tuned in live right now, please let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me, if it's coming through loud and clear. If you could do that, I would really appreciate it. And of course, submit your questions and we will get things underway in just a moment. Right. Okay, I just got a couple things to organize on my end here, as always. Let's see. Loud and clear. Good stuff. Thank you. That was from Zakara. Good. All right. There's a couple of things that I would like to discuss here today when it comes to training and nutrition. And before I actually get into answering your questions, I just want to cover this. It's kind of like a general topic, but it is a very important one when it comes to achieving your fitness goals. And I was having a discussion with some of my coaching students recently, and some of them are struggling with following through with their programs. And what it is, it's not that they don't know what to do. It's just that they are struggling actually following through and doing what they know they should be doing. And I think a lot of people can probably relate to this. I know I can from time to time. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, I know what to do, but doing it is something totally different. And I remember a while back, I was actually coaching a gentleman who was very overweight. This particular guy, he was, I think, 370 pounds or somewhere in that range. Very, very overweight guy, and been struggling with his weight for years, you know, on and off with different diet and exercise programs. Like he'd lose a few pounds and then he'd get frustrated and quit and gain the weight back, you know, then for whatever reason, get motivated again, go on a diet, lose a bit of weight, get frustrated, quit, and gain the weight back. And anyway, he decided to start working with me. And this was, you know, over a year ago, and we were working together, and he started following the program that I laid out for him. And within about a month, he had quit the program. And I was like, you know, why did you quit? I mean, what's wrong? And his reason was, oh, this isn't intense enough for me, or this isn't advanced enough for me. That was his words. He said, it wasn't advanced enough. And I said, what do you mean it's not advanced? And he said, well, I already know all the stuff you're telling me to do. I said, okay, you know it, but are you actually doing it? That's the big difference here. He knew, I mean, as far as like diet and exercise, he's been around it for over 20 years. I mean, following all the bodybuilding magazines and, you know, online, watching YouTube videos, and he's kind of like the armchair athlete in that sense, but he wasn't actually doing the basics. So even though I was teaching him some of the basic fundamentals of exercise and nutrition, and he intellectually knew it, he's, you know, he knows, yeah, you should go to the gym and, you know, do a well-structured workout routine. He knows you should follow a well-structured meal plan and control your calorie intake and all that, but he wasn't doing it. So one of the things we need to really wrap our heads around is not the getting caught up in the I know that attitude. Is what are you actually doing and what are you actually applying? And if you are struggling with being consistent with your workout, chances are it's not that you need a new workout program or you need a new diet or you need to make things more advanced or more complicated. Sometimes it's the complete opposite. If you are struggling, sometimes we need to even go step back and make it even more basic, even more simple, even more easy to follow. So a lot of times what happens is we get overwhelmed because we're making it too big in our minds. And one of the things that I like to encourage people is, I got a phone ringing there. Obviously, I will let the wife get that phone, and I'm not going to bother answering that. Where was I? One of the things that often happens when people make their workout and nutrition program too big in their mind is that they're they're overcomplicating it. So one of the things I recommend is let's just get down to the bare bones basic. You know, forget following a structured meal plan, forget counting your macros, forget counting your calories. Let's just focus on eating a clean, healthy meal. Who cares about the portion sizes? You know, like sometimes people will say, well, I don't have a food scale, so I can't weigh out my chicken breasts to know how many grams of protein. I don't have my smartphone with me, so I can't track my food in my Fitness Pal to know that I'm sticking to my macros. I don't have this, I don't have that. Oh, you know what? Seeing I can't follow my structured diet, I think I'll just order a pizza instead. I mean, some people, we've been there. I mean, people have done that. And it's kind of a backwards way of approaching things. So what you need to do sometimes is just take things simple, break it down, and just focus on doing something that's going to move you in the right direction towards your fitness goals, rather than making it too big, too complex, and getting overwhelmed. I mean, if you can't dedicate an hour to go to the gym, then hey, go there and do a 20-minute workout instead. Can't do a 20-minute workout? Well, hey, go for a walk outside, right? If you don't have time to go for a walk outside, you know, go for a 10-minute walk outside. I mean, it doesn't have to be some long, tedious cardio session. And if you think you don't have time to do a 10-minute walk, well, you don't have time to watch this video, which is BS. I mean, if you got time to watch this video, you got time to get outside and go for a 10-minute walk. Break it down and look at what's the smallest measurable thing that you can do to move you in the right direction, and focus on doing that and being consistent with some of these small little actionable steps. And I'm going to tell you, sometimes when it comes to people who are struggling with their weight, even going through a phase where you maintain your weight can be progress in some situations. Now, I know you're probably listening to this and saying, what the hell are you talking about? Maintaining is actually making progress. Well, you look at people who are morbidly obese, been gaining weight, you know, over the course of years and sometimes even decades, you know, packing on weight year after year after year, like the individual I mentioned earlier who was somewhere around 370 pounds. He just didn't balloon up 370 overnight. I mean, that was weight that was piling on year after year after year, until he finally gets to the point and he looks in the mirror and he says, you know, oh my God, I'm 370 pounds. I got to do something about it. Even if he can go through a phase where he stops gaining weight, so where he just maintains, technically that's progress compared to a slow, steady gain where you're probably packing on a pound or more every single month due to poor eating and exercise choices. So sometimes, even if you can just maintain, that is technically progress. So you can then work on, okay, now we got to the point where we're no longer regaining weight anymore. Now let's focus on, you know, getting even more strict, more consistent, so that we can actually start moving in the right direction and losing some weight in the process. So it's kind of a, sometimes you need to just wrap your head around the idea that it's not what you know. Like, we don't need another diet plan. We don't need another workout program. Very often what we do need is just to apply what we already know and to make it simple and actually stick with it. So that's a little strategy, a tip that I want to share with you before I get in and answer some of your questions today. And it's one that I constantly have to reinforce to a lot of my coaching students. I mean, when it comes to diet and exercise, most of the stuff, it's not new. We don't need new information. We just need to apply the tried and true stuff that we already know. And that's sometimes where having a coach can help. Someone who can actually keep you on track and help hold you accountable to doing the things that you know you should be doing in order to move in the right direction towards your goals. All right, with that being said, let's move on. We got a lot of people joining us live right now. So we have Zakara's joining us. We have Mark, Josh, Stephen. Okay, thanks, guys. Darren is joining us. Excellent. First question here. What do you think about eating most of my protein daily before bed? First off, I'd have to ask, why would you want to eat most of your protein right before bed? Personally, I would rather you split it up throughout the day. Now, it doesn't have to be like 6 small meals a day. I mean, you can split it up in like maybe 3 meals a day or something like that. But generally speaking, I would recommend that you break up your protein intake over the course of your daily meals. So, for example, if you're eating 3 meals a day, try and eat 1/3 of your protein spaced equally apart for each of those 3 meals. That's what I would recommend, rather than trying to lump sum, you know, all of your protein in one gulp and sitting, which can be a bit much. Like, I'll use myself, for example. I mean, I'm around 200 pounds. If I were to consume all my daily protein intake, which is approximately 200 grams a day in one meal, that's a lot of protein in a single meal. I would much rather, and it'd be much more comfortable to break that up over 3 or 4 meals and have those meals spaced out at least ideally a couple hours apart, so it gives your body a chance to digest and utilize that protein more efficiently. All right, Mark's joining us. Let's see what other questions. Darren's got a simple question here. He's saying, do you include the barbell weight when you are adding up the weight that you're lifting? Yes, you add the weight of the barbell. This is a common question. I get this asked a lot. People, they add up the weight of the plates, but do you also factor in the weight of the barbell? Yes, you do. Most barbells that you have at the gym, the 7-foot-long barbells, are usually around 45 pounds. That's what most of them weigh. I mean, some may be a little heavier, a little lighter, depending on the grade of the barbell. I mean, some are like really heavy-duty powerlifting bars may weigh a little bit more. But generally speaking, a standard barbell that you'll see at the gym, the 7-foot-long barbell, is at 45 pounds, and you factor that weight into the total weight that you're lifting because you're lifting the barbell. I mean, that is weight that you are lifting. You can also do the same thing with dumbbell handles, but sometimes the dumbbell handles are so small that it's not going to add a lot, but technically you're still lifting an extra, maybe 2 to 3 pounds depending on the length of the dumbbell handle as well. So some gyms will actually factor that in, some may not, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind. For example, if you're lifting a set of dumbbells, like let's say a fixed set of dumbbells, like hex dumbbells, they are generally, the way those are weighed is the total weight of the dumbbell, including the handle, is what you see on the dumbbell itself. So if it's a 20-pound hex dumbbell, that means it's 20 total pounds. Versus if you have an assembled dumbbell with 2 10-pound plates and a handle in between, then that's 20 pounds from the weight plates, but the handle is probably a couple pounds as well. So technically that dumbbell is probably a 22 or 23-pound dumbbell versus the hex dumbbell, which would be an actual 20-pound dumbbell. So that's something to keep in mind. Like if you're doing dumbbell curls or presses or flies with hex dumbbells, and then you automatically switch to the assembled dumbbells, the ones with the weight plates ones may feel heavier, and that's because they are heavier. You're adding the weight of the handle of the dumbbell there as well. So just something to keep in mind when you are training. And seeing we're on the topic of this, another advanced strategy that you can use to help have progressive overload with dumbbell exercises, if you have a combination of some hex and assembled weight plate dumbbells, like at the gym that I train at, Platinum Fitness up in Conception Bay South, they have some hex dumbbells and they also have the plate dumbbells. So one of the things I will sometimes do to help make it easier for progressive overload is I will alternate both dumbbells, and I'll do so in a structured fashion so that I have a smaller increment in between weights. So I'll give you an example of what I mean by this. Let's say I'm doing dumbbell curls, and week 1 I want to curl a 20-pound dumbbell. I'll use a 20-pound hex dumbbell, and that will be 20 pounds. Then say like next week I want to increase that a little bit. I'll probably take a 20-pound of a weight plate dumbbell with a handle in the middle, and that will technically be like say 22 pounds. So I'll curl that as a small progressive overload. And then if I want to go to a 25-pound dumbbell, then I'll go back to the hex and take the 25s. And then say that the following week, I'll want to progress even more. I'll go to the weight plate dumbbells and take a 25, which is technically probably like a 27 or 28 once you factor in the weight of the handle. So you can use this little strategy of alternating between the hex and the weight plate dumbbells to have a more gradual progression in weight with your dumbbell exercises. Because a lot of guys sometimes find that making that 5-pound jumps, that going from a 20 to a 25 to a 30, etc., when it comes to dumbbells, the 5-pound increments, is sometimes too big, especially for isolation exercises. But if you can have a smaller increment, as in like only maybe a 2 or 3 pound increment in between the dumbbells, it makes it easier to train with progressive overload. So it's kind of like an advanced strategy. I've never really shared that with anybody, but that's a little strategy that I actually use when I'm doing my own workouts to help ensure a steady progressive overload when doing dumbbell exercises. So anyway, so hopefully that answers your question, Dean. Yes, you count the weight of the barbell when you're doing exercises. Steve is joining us, and he says, trying to do both weight loss and build some muscle, what should be the priority? Chances are, if you need to lose weight, I would say weight loss should be your priority. And the reason why I say that is because the leaner you get, the easier it's going to be to build some lean muscle in the process as well. Having excess body fat, not only is it unhealthy, it doesn't make you look and feel worse, but it can also hinder your body's natural ability to build muscle. I mean, the more belly fat that you have, the more that can hinder insulin sensitivity, the more that it can hinder your natural testosterone production. So getting off that excess weight will make you better able to build lean muscle in the process. So I would recommend focusing on like a fat loss, lean gain program first. And chances are that would move you in the right direction. And you can actually build lean muscle while losing body fat, especially if you are in that beginning phase where you're just starting a new workout program, just starting a new diet plan. The consistency with your training, the consistency with your nutrition will allow you to simultaneously build lean muscle while burning off stubborn body fat at the same time. Where it can get a bit complicated is when you're looking at like advanced lifters or advanced bodybuilders who are like getting ready for a competition or something like that. When you're at that advanced stage, then you really need to structure in, specific mass building phases and specific fat loss phases. But for a beginner or intermediate, you can actually make progress in both fat loss and muscle building at the same time. All right, we have another question here. Jen Tick-Hex, I think it is. Anyway, Lee, thanks for your time. I've got a question. They say if you eat more protein, whey protein can damage your kidneys. Is that true? All right. The simple answer to this whole protein and kidney issue is no. If you have healthy kidneys that are in, you're a healthy individual, your kidneys are functioning normally, eating a high protein diet is not going to cause excessive kidney strain. Usually the only time that you will have problems with protein and kidney issues is if you already have a pre-existing health condition to begin with. So if that is your case, then obviously your doctor will probably put you on a special diet to accommodate that. But most people who are healthy can digest adequate protein intake with no kidney issues whatsoever. There's a lot of studies done on this. I mean, you can go on Google and you can do a lot of research studies. I mean, this myth has kind of been debunked numerous times, but it still exists in kind of like, I guess the bro science world, where people sometimes say, oh, if you eat too much protein, it's hard on the kidneys. But the fact of the matter is, as long as you're in good health and you're eating a well-balanced diet, you can certainly utilize the protein without any health issues. We have Woodylos joining us. What are your thoughts on foam rolling and active release techniques? Okay. It's another tool in the toolbox, bottom line. I personally don't do a lot of foam rolling, but I am a big believer in mobility exercises. I'm a big believer in post-workout stretching. I do a lot of that, but as far as actual foam rolling, unless I'm particularly tight or stiff or sore in a certain area, I usually don't do a whole lot of it myself. I mean, I have a foam roller for my home gym, and I have used it occasionally, but it's not like a regular part of my routine personally. Now, again, not knocking people who do find the foam roller beneficial, but for me, I really don't get a lot out of it. I find stretching and mobility exercises are my two big things. So, for example, when I'm starting a workout routine, I usually always start with some form of general cardiovascular exercise just to get the blood flow circulating throughout the body, to elevate my core temperature, and to have a general warm-up. Then I'll do some specific mobility exercises for the body parts that I'm going to be training. So if I'm training upper body, I'm going to do some specific mobility exercises for the shoulders, for the elbows, for the chest and back, just to help limber up all those muscles, joints, tendons, and ligaments. If I'm doing some leg work, I'm going to do some specific mobility exercises for my hips, knees, and ankles to make sure that those joints are all limbered up and ready to go. And I find that doing that, along with progressively heavier warm-up sets, it is usually more than enough to allow me to get through a training session with good mobility, feeling good, and of course remaining injury-free in the process. All right, we have Marie joining us. Josh is joining us. He says, do you believe that muscle is a byproduct of strength? To a degree, yes. For the most part, with very few exceptions. If you see someone who is big and muscular, chances are they're going to be strong as well. And if somebody's really strong, they're going to be big and muscular as well. It usually correlates, hand in hand. A bigger muscle is a stronger muscle and vice versa. Now, there are some exceptions to the rule where you may see somebody who is exceptionally strong, but not exceptionally big. And I'll give you some examples. Like you probably look at some competitive powerlifters, some competitive weightlifters, sometimes gymnasts would apply to this as well. Sometimes you'll see people who have a fairly lean athletic physique, but they can be exceptionally strong. And a lot of times that has to do with tendon and ligament strength as well as their technique. I mean, that's when it comes into like powerlifting and especially Olympic lifting. I mean, when you see guys like, for example, doing like a clean and jerk with, say, 300 pounds, sometimes you'll see guys who are maybe a small stature individual, but they can still like clean and jerk maybe double body weight. I mean, if that is a huge feat of strength, and a lot of times even an experienced bodybuilder who is like maybe 250 pounds of muscular body weight may not be able to do that same feat of strength. And it's not so much due to lack of muscular strength, but it's lack of technique because they just haven't focused on it. So sometimes you'll see exceptions like that, where some people are not really muscular or not really big, I should say, but are exceptionally strong. And it usually is in the case of strength athletes and gymnasts and people who really focus on technique and build up that tendon and ligament strength to really maximize their strength. So it's more than just muscular strength going on. But from a general overall like bodybuilding and fitness point of view, a bigger muscle is a stronger muscle and vice versa. All right, we have Captain Mongolia. I think that's the username. And he says, where was it? Okay, he says, I've lost 17 pounds since April. I'm 187 pounds, but I'm still having love handles. I eat 1,800 calories a day. What should I do? I can't eat less than that. Should I do an OMAD diet? I'm not sure what an OMAD diet is. I've never heard that acronym before. Right? I mean, so I'm not going to comment on that in particular, but you've lost 17 pounds since April. So that's really good. Congratulations on doing that. You still have some more body fat to lose, and you're currently at 1,800 calories a day. What I would recommend, based on that little bit of information that I have from you right there, I would think that you're probably at the point where your body is at a plateau in terms of fat loss, and it's starting to adapt to your current caloric intake. And I've dealt with this with a lot of my personal coaching students before, where people have followed a very strict fat loss diet, low calorie, doing lots of exercise, both weight training and cardio. So they're doing everything that they think they should be doing in order to burn body fat, but they get to the point where it's no longer working for them. And of course they get frustrated. And in some cases, they'll even, start to do more, like lower their calories even further, bump up their cardio even more, do more weight training or whatever. And a lot of times it actually backfires and it just sends you deeper into overtraining, and actually it can make the situation worse. What I would recommend in your situation is to temporarily go into a caloric surplus. I know it's going to seem scary, and you're going to like, oh my God, if I eat, a caloric surplus, I'm going to bloom back up and gain all my weight back, and You know, it's probably going to freak you out mentally, but stick with me here. There's actually some method to the madness. By temporarily going into a caloric surplus, what's going to happen is it's going to trick your metabolic rate and trick your body into thinking that you're no longer starving yourself and that you have an abundance of food, and it's going to help to elevate your natural metabolic hormones. So your thyroid hormone, your leptin hormone, your testosterone, your growth hormone, all these hormones are going to be elevated, and your body is actually going to start to burn more calories. The more calories you consume, the more calories you burn. The less calories you consume, the less calories you burn. You know, I mean, there's a correlation there, right? You eat more, your body will burn more. You eat less, your body will burn less. So what we want to do is trick your body into burning more. So temporarily go into a caloric surplus. So just a ballpark figure off the top of my head, if you're eating 1,800 calories a day, I would recommend at least maybe 2,800 or even 3,000 calories a day for the next week. Do that every day for the next week. Eat, you know, strive for 3,000 calories a day. And yes, you will gain some weight during this high calorie week. And the weight that you gain is primarily going to be through more muscle glycogen being stored, because the higher calories, the higher carbohydrates, and that is going to help to pull water and glycogen into your muscle cells and fill your body out. So you will gain weight, but it's not necessarily fat weight. It's going to be lean weight in terms of glycogen and water being pulled into the muscle cells. This is going to help increase your strength, increase your energy. You're going to feel like a tank in the gym during this week because you have all this abundance of calories in your system and the abundance of glycogen plus the elevated hormones. So you'll get some really good workouts. And then what I want you to do is, after a week of this high calorie eating, go back to your current diet. And I can almost guarantee you that within a week or so of following your current diet, in this case 1,800 calories a day, you'll hit a new all-time low in your body weight. All right, I want you to try that. So go 1 week of 3,000 calories a day. Still keep the same quality food. I mean, I don't want you to go 3,000 calories of pizza and ice cream. Still eat the same quality foods, clean protein, lots of vegetables, clean, complex carbohydrates, and stuff like that. Eat still good quality, nutritious food, but just more of it so that you're in a caloric surplus. Do that for a full week. Then when you go back to your current diet, your body will be burning fat at a much higher rate. You'll be much more efficient, and you will hit a new personal low body weight within a week or two of resuming your current diet. So give that a try, and send me an email or post a comment or something to let me know. And like I say, I'm looking into my fitness crystal ball right now. If you do this, I can almost guarantee that you'll hit a new personal low body weight by going through this calorie cycle phase. And this is a strategy that I use with a lot of my personal coaching students who are in a similar situation and stuck in a fat loss plateau. And with very few exceptions, I mean, it works. It works like gangbusters. Swire86 is saying, thoughts on ab wheel rollouts? Are they any good? Yes, the ab wheel rollout is a very advanced exercise, and I actually have a video. It's not necessarily an ab wheel rollout video, but it's a video where I included ab wheel rollouts as part of the workout, and I went into a lot of detail explaining how to do those. I'm trying to think of the name of that video right now. I think it was with a lower body workout that I did. This was several months back now that I made this video. Can't think of it off the top of my head. Tell you what, when I post the replay of this video chat, I will put like an annotation or a card there linking to this particular video that I'm thinking about off the top of my head, that I can't think of off the top of my head. But ab wheel rollouts, when done properly, are a very good exercise. And the thing is, when done properly, because there's some key mistakes that a lot of people make, and I was guilty of making these mistakes myself, and that's what I outlined in the video. We have Jay joining us. Jarva Ball is joining us. Okay, another question. Okay, the whole thing about the I mentioned earlier about the individual who said they lost 17 pounds since April. That wasn't 17 pounds. He clarified. He said it was 17 kilograms, which is actually 38 pounds. So again, even better for you. And that makes it a much more impressive of a weight loss. Azim is joining us. Azim is a regular to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chats. He says, Lee, my question is regarding the Pendley Row. I saw it. It seems effective, but really annoying. What's your opinion about it? Should I add it to my arsenal or leave it on the battlefield and move on? It's a personal, it's really personal preference. I mean, the Pendley Row, for those of you who are not familiar with what a Pendley Row is, it's just a bent over barbell row where instead of keeping the weight up like you would with a regular barbell row and just keeping a steady cadence, you're actually going to rest the barbell on the floor in between repetitions. So it's kind of like a deadlift barbell row, if you will. So you row the weight off the floor, rest the weight back on the floor, and have a little pause in between each repetition. And that pause is going to break up the eccentric and concentric chain. It's going to break up the momentum of the exercise. So you have to physically start the weight from a dead stop with each repetition. Now, that makes it a lot more challenging because you take the momentum out of the exercise. I mean, if you keep the barbell moving, there is some momentum and also a bit of rebound. You know, you just keep that cadence going. Whereas if you break up the repetitions and pause the weight on the floor with each repetition, it makes it harder to do the exercise. Now, can you still make progress with a regular barbell row? Of course you can. If you still train that exercise, you're doing it with good form, progressive overload, all that kind of stuff, you're still going to stimulate all the muscles throughout your back and build new muscle tissue from doing regular bent over barbell rows. Can you build muscle with the Pendley Row? Of course you can. Same principle applies. As long as you're training with progressive overload, it's just another exercise variation. The way I would look at it, if you really don't like the exercise, then don't do it. I mean, obviously that's just a given. But if you want to try it and experiment with it, look at it this way. It's better for building more explosive functional strength. And the reason why I say that is because it is a harder variation. So, for example, like a power lifter or strength athlete may actually benefit more from a Pendley row than they would from a bent over barbell row because it is simulating that first rep strength, meaning starting from a dead stop, just like you would in the case of like a deadlift, or you would in the case of like the clean and jerk or a snatch or something like that, where you have to start from that dead stop. So the Pendley row is going to help with that. But again, it's just another exercise. So usually the people who I see use it the most are usually strength athletes. Bodybuilders tend to just stick with regular barbell rows. Mr. Jarvabal is joining us, and he says, do you think there's any long-term risk to using creatine long-term? Do you think it's superior to branched chain amino acids when it comes to increase in muscle and strength? First off, creatine and BCAAs are two totally different things. I mean, yes, creatine is made up of amino acids, but it's not the branched chain amino acids. So I mean, it's a little bit like a chalk and cheese situation. Two totally different things. Both are beneficial for building muscle. You know, you need the branched chain amino acids, and you need all the essential amino acids for that matter when it comes to actually providing the raw material for muscle growth. And creatine also helps with that as well. So both of them are beneficial when it comes to building muscle mass. Now, are they essential in terms of like, do you have to supplement with branched chain amino acids and do you have to supplement with creatine? Technically, no. I mean, if you're consuming adequate protein and nutrients from your diet alone, you can still build muscle just through diet. I mean, diet and exercise are all you really need to build muscle, but supplementing with BCAAs and creatine can help maximize your results. So look at it where you are in your training. I mean, if you're just getting started, I wouldn't even worry about it. You know, for a beginner or even an intermediate, you know, just focus on being consistent with your diet, being consistent with your workouts. That's what's going to matter the most. For someone who's more advanced, you're already consistent. You've already got the basics, the basis covered. then you can look into supplementing with creatine and BCAAs to help take your physique to that higher level and again provide some advanced nutritional strategies and nutritional support to help further your muscle gains. As far as long-term risks, creatine has been around for a long time. I remember first hearing about it and first using it back in the early 90s is when I first started supplementing with creatine, and I've been using it pretty much consistently since the early 90s. I'm not exactly 1993 or 1994, somewhere around that time is when I bought my first jar of creatine, and I've been using it ever since. So as far as long-term risks, I mean, it's been around. There's been more studies done on creatine than probably any other supplement out there as far as like sports specific supplements, and it is very safe. In fact, there's a lot of health benefits to creatine. Not just muscle building benefits, but actual health benefits. It helps with mental health. It helps with physical health. I know like a lot of people who suffer from mental illnesses like Alzheimer's and dementia and things like that, they've actually shown that creatine can help in those situations. So creatine is actually a very healthy supplement. So even if you're not a bodybuilder or strength athlete, you can still supplement with creatine for the health benefits alone. And using it on a consistent basis, like a maintenance dose over the long term, is the way to go. All right, what else we got? We got Michael's joining us. We have Swires86 is joining us. Question here. During pulling exercises like rows, face pulls, etc., do I have to let the weight pull my upper body and shoulders forward, or should you keep them back natural and retracted a bit? It really depends on the exercise that you're doing, but for the most part, I would recommend keeping your torso stationary and just focus on actually working the muscle. So like in the case of, say, like a pull down or a row or something like that, keep your upper body stationary and just focus on actually rowing and squeezing the back muscles themselves, and try not to use momentum. Now, I know sometimes you will see some guys will use a little bit of momentum, especially as they get closer to the end of the set in order to kind of like cheat out a few extra reps. And if done, you know, properly, it can actually help to extend the set and create more muscle stress and more muscle stimulation. But for the most part, try and keep your form nice and strict. And if you are going to do any controlled cheating, save it for at the end of the set for maybe like, you know, just a couple reps to help extend the set. I wouldn't recommend using such a heavy weight that you have to cheat right from the very first repetition in order to complete a good rep. I would much rather you use moderate weight and good form right from the start, and then as you fatigue, if you want to do a couple, you know, cheating reps at the end, that will be the best time to do them with the least risk of injury. And Michael's joining us. Where else? You know, Michael's there again. Okay. Swires, another question coming through from Swires86. How important is squeezing the glutes and abs on compound exercises like an overhead press, a bench, and on which other exercises is this a must as well? So how important is squeezing the glutes and abs on compound exercise like the overhead press, on the bench? This is something that a lot of people kind of neglect, but it can actually help to stabilize your torso and give you more drive. So for example, when you are doing the overhead press, keeping your core tight and keeping your glutes flexed will actually help to stabilize your torso, and generally you'll feel that you can generate more power and do so feeling more solid. Another exercise where this can help is with squats. Like as you're coming up out of the bottom of a squat, purposely flex your glutes and drive your hips forward. And this can help you to lock out a squat and handle a much heavier weight than you would if you weren't consciously focusing on flexing your glutes and driving your hips forward. With the bench press, flexing the glutes can help to give you a bit more of a solid base. It's not going to be quite as dramatic as it would be in, say, like the overhead press or the squat, but it can still give you a bit of an edge because it just helps to create that overall tightness throughout your body. I mean, for the most part, the more solid and the more tight your body is when you're doing an exercise, the more power you're going to be able to generate. And it just doesn't apply to the muscles that you're trying to train. For example, like if you're doing a bench press, you don't need to just focus on the chest, shoulders, triceps. You want to focus on getting your body in position and keeping tension throughout all the major muscles of the body. So setting your feet, driving your legs into the floor, flexing your glutes, contracting your traps and your upper back, creating that tension, gripping the barbell hard and squeezing the barbell to activate the forearms, and that it just creates much more muscular tension and much more muscle activation that helps you to generate more power as you're doing the exercise. So yeah, this will come with experience. Like as you get more into these exercises and you become a better technician of doing them, this will kind of come second nature to you. But as you're learning these exercises, or if you're in that kind of beginner intermediate phase and you're relearning them to do them at a higher level, then you really kind of have to consciously remind yourself to set up and to create that tension that you need. All right, we have Dula is joining us, and he says, Lee, I had a rotator cuff injury 3 months ago. When should I go back to the gym? Quite honestly, I would try to get back to the gym as soon as possible. I wouldn't have even waited 3 months, because even though you've had a rotator cuff injury, chances are you could still do some mobility and rehab exercises for that rotator cuff injury. And you could probably do some other exercises for the body parts that don't involve the rotator cuff. So I would have, in my case, if like I've had injuries over the years, in my case, I've torn both biceps. I've had some rotator cuff problems, not a full-on tear, but some strains in rotator cuff injuries that have taken some time to heal. I've tore a muscle in my lat. I've had some, knee and elbow pain. I mean, a lot of the common stuff that a lot of lifters who've been at this for a while have experienced. But even though I've had all these, nuisance injuries over the years, and some major ones, like when it comes a muscle tear is a fairly major injury. So even though I've had all these injuries, I still train consistently and I work around those injuries. I just don't stop going to the gym entirely. I think that is a mistake, because when you stop, you let your body decondition and you really lose whatever progress you've made. So if you have an injury, i.e. rotator cuff, go to the gym and work around it. Chances are you're going to be able to do some legs. You'll probably be able to do some core work. You'll probably be able to do some work for your lower back. You may even be able to do some isolation work for, some like biceps or triceps or forearms or something like that, depending on the exercise and depending on the degree of your injury. And you should also be able to go in there and do some mobility and rehab exercises for your rotator cuff. So I would still work out consistently right on through that injury. And you'll find that actually training through that injury, training smart, that is, and working around it and trying to help rehab it, is a faster way to get back to training properly, rather than just sitting at home and doing nothing. So that's what I'd recommend when it comes to working around an injury. We have Azim joining us again, and his question is, this is regarding nutrition, vegetables versus fruit. Which is a better carb source? I like fruits more, by the way. Most people do. I mean, fruit is sweet, it tastes better, and yes, most people will generally prefer eating fruit, but you look at fruit for what it is. I mean, there's a lot of sugar in fruit, and it's basically nature's candy, if you will. That's what you can look at fruit as. Now, I'm not saying that it's necessarily bad, because you can certainly include fruit in your diet, but you want to include vegetables in there as well. And even though they're generally not as enjoyable, you still want to make sure that you're getting adequate vegetables in your diet. If you're not getting enough vegetables, one thing that you can do to kind of make up for it is to supplement your diet with greens powder. Like you can get these powdered greens mixes, just the same as you'd buy like protein powder to supplement your protein intake. You can buy greens powder to supplement your vegetable intake. And this can be an ideal substitute for people who are not getting enough vegetables in their diet. Personally, I try to get a serving of vegetables with every single meal. That's breakfast, lunch, dinner. I try to get a serving of vegetables with every single meal. And if I don't, I'll have a serving of greens instead. And that is my, I guess, my supplement for vegetables. So that's my little strategy. And I'm going to tell you, if you start doing that, increasing your vegetable intake or increasing your intake of green supplements, you're going to feel a lot better. You're going to have more energy, and it's just like a natural detoxification for your body. It's just going to help to alkalize and neutralize a lot of the acid that's in your system. You'll feel better. You'll be more regular. I mean, there's the health benefits of consuming, adequate vegetables are just immense. So I would definitely recommend it. And then as far as the fruit, you can certainly have fruit as well, but have that secondary to the vegetables. All right, let's see what else. Operation Truth is joining us. He says, Lee, can you bench press 5 days a week with moderate weight? For the short term, yes. I know some people are going to say, what? That doesn't make sense. But if you structure your training properly, you can actually bench press 5 days a week and make progress. And I'm going to give you a prime example of this. The Blast Your Bench program. For those of you who've been around the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel and following my material for a while, you may have actually followed this program. This was the first program that I ever launched online. I came out with this program back in 1997, Blast Your Bench. And it is a bench press specialization program. And the premise of the program is a bench press specialization routine where you're going to be able to add as much as 50 pounds to your bench in the matter of a single training cycle, which usually lasts 3 weeks, depending on how you structure it, 3 to 5 weeks. Now, I know some people say, oh, that sounds too good to be true, but there's been numerous people over the years who have done that, and in some cases even more. And how it's based is a 5-day per week structured routine, and we design it in such a way that you're going to prioritize the bench press while putting all your other upper body exercises on the back burner. So instead of doing, say, like a proper chest workout, a proper shoulder workout, a proper tricep workout, all we're going to do for chest, shoulders, triceps is bench press. So you're taking all the volume that you would normally do for those other body parts, and you're going to just kind of specialize on the bench press. And you do different workouts. There's some workouts where you're doing multiple sets of low reps, some where you're doing multiple sets of high reps, some where you're doing pyramid fashion. So you're working the different rep ranges and the different muscle fibers. And some are going to be heavy training to failure days. Some are going to be purposely lighter days. I mean, it is a structured program, but the thing is, it's a high frequency program, and you can actually recover from it and make gains from it if you do it properly. And so, can you bench 5 days a week and make progress? Yes, you can, but it has to be done in a structured fashion, and you have to accommodate your overall training volume to allow for that extra bench press specialization work. I mean, you just can't continue training everything with high volume and expect to increase and just add in, like, for example, let's say you're doing one bench press workout a week right now, and you're also training all your other major muscle groups, consistently as well. You just can't expect to add in an extra 4 bench press workouts a week on top of everything else and still recover and make progress. I mean, chances are that would push most people into overtraining. But if you make room for the bench press, meaning that you're going to back off the volume of your other areas to allow your body to handle the extra volume for the bench press, you can. So again, if you want more information about that, you can head on over to blastyourbench.com. That program is still available. It's also available on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Inner Circle members website as well. So everyone who is a member of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Inner Circle, you have access to the Blast Your Bench as part of your membership. Okay. People are hearing Harvey in action. Yes, he's just outside the door there. I mean, the door is not soundproof by any means, so I'm sure you can hear him out there running back and forth and playing in the hallway. All right. How do I balance a barbell while squatting? That comes down to technique. I mean, I'd like to know specifically what it is that you are having the issue with, I mean, is if you've never squatted before and you just try doing a squat for the first time, it can be a very challenging exercise. It can be, one that is hard to balance. What I often recommend for beginners who are learning to squat is to squat in the Smith machine. And the reason for that is because the Smith machine is going to purposely prevent you from falling forward or backward. It's going to help to balance you as you do the exercise. So if you are new to squatting and you're struggling with it, try using the Smith machine, or you could probably even try using some sort of squat machine or hack squat machine that you may have available at your local gym. And that'll make the exercise easier to perform. If you don't have access to any of that, then even just doing body weight squats is a great way to start. Just get used to going through the squatting motion and maintaining your balance that way. And then as you become more comfortable with body weight squats, you can hold either hold dumbbells to your sides, do a goblet squat, or even a full-on barbell across the shoulders back squat. But it's just going to take time and consistency to build up the balance and coordination required to squat. I mean, bottom line, it is a hard exercise. I will admit that. Like when I started training, I couldn't do squats very well. It was one of the hardest exercises to learn. And what I mean by that is it's hard to teach your body to actually go through the full range of motion when you're doing a squat. When I started, I could only do a partial squat, like maybe not even hitting parallel. I'd just do like a quarter squat, and then it was like my body would just lock up. I didn't have the mobility or the confidence in myself to actually sink down and do a full squat. And it took me several years to actually develop that ability to do a full squat. And now I'm at the point where it's second nature to me. I mean, I go into the gym, do a leg workout. I mean, I squat, ass to the floor, and it's second nature to me. But it wasn't always that way. It took me a long time to build up the mobility and the confidence and the the ability to do a full squat like that. And it was something that I had to build up gradually over the course of several years. So if you're struggling with squats, I know it's frustrating in the moment, but realize that it is one of the more challenging exercises, and it's really just part of the process. But doing some of these other variations, the Smith machine squats, the body weight squats, and things like that can help in that transition. All right. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. Oops, I lost my place again. Just a second, guys. This happens every week. I know some of the regulars here, you know what's going on. It's my little scroll wheel mouse. I'm scrolling down through the comments, and it just jumps, and I lose my place. All right. Logical Order's got an interesting question. Do you meditate before working out or at all? Interesting. I don't do the traditional meditation, as in, I'm not going to sit cross-legged and I'm not going to go to the gym and sit in the corner and meditate like that. But it's good to visualize your workout before you actually do it, and this can be considered a form of meditation. And one of the things I like to do, especially if I'm going to be doing a particularly challenging workout, kind of try and hit some personal records in certain exercises and really push myself, is as I'm writing out my workout for the day, like what I will do is I will take my training journal, and I'll usually have a cup of coffee, and I'll sit to my desk or sit to the kitchen table or somewhere, and I'll just sit by my coffee, and I'll start writing out my workout for the day, writing out the exercises that I'm going to do, the planned sets and reps and weights that I'm going to be lifting. And as I'm writing it out, I will mentally visualize myself doing those exercises. And I find that mental visualization of going through the workout in my mind beforehand can actually help to carry over to a better workout performance when you actually get to the gym. So that is something that you can do, and it does make a noticeable difference, especially if you're doing more of a performance-based workout. Now, if you're a beginner and you're just kind of going through the motions, then it's not going to make that big of a deal. But if you're a more advanced lifter and you're really trying to push yourself, especially for people who are involved with strength or power sports, powerlifting or something along those lines, this can have a huge impact on your results. When you visualize the exercises, visualize the setup, the technique that's involved, and just mentally go through the workout in advance. And then when you go to the gym to do it for real, you'll find that it'll actually be more beneficial, and you'll more often than not, you'll be able to hit those numbers that you had visualized while you were planning your workout out in advance. But that's a good question. Thanks for posting that. Amir is joining us. And he says, Lee, I was 207 pounds, 5'7", 40 years old. I've lost 17 pounds in the last 3 weeks. My goal is to reach 147 pounds like I was 4 years ago. What is the best workout split to reach my goal? I'm going to tell you right now, as far as a split, there really is no best workout split. What's going to help you to reach your goal is consistency over the long term. Now, as far as the split, and this is the way I usually recommend it for most people. If you are new to working out and you said, okay, you've lost 17 pounds in 3 weeks, that's a lot of weight to lose in 3 weeks, but you need to realize the majority of that weight is going to be water, just intestinal bloat, and it's not all pure body fat. Get it that way. I mean, most of the fast initial weight loss is water weight. Now that you've gotten that out of the way, you're going to start getting into burning more body fat, and the weight loss is going to be much slower. So while you lost 17 pounds in the last 3 weeks, in the next 3 weeks, if you could lose, 1 to 2 pounds a week, that's going to be really good progress from here on out. So just wrap your head around that. You're not going to continue dropping weight like, a half a pound a day or whatever it was like you have been up until this point. If you can get now where you're losing, say, 1 to 2 pounds a week, that's going to be really good progress. So just set yourself up mentally. That's the way it's going to work. As far as a good split routine, I would recommend probably like a total body workout 3 days a week. And then on your off days from that, do some form of cardiovascular exercise. And even if it's just getting outside and going for a walk. And try and keep yourself active on a daily basis. So weight training one day, walking the next. Weight training one day, walking the next. And do that so that every single day you're getting some form of physical activity. And this is going to help to increase your metabolism, help to burn more body fat, and just move you closer towards your goal of getting down to 147 pounds. So that's what I would recommend. And the consistency with your workouts, the consistency with your cardio, and of course, consistency with your nutrition, that's the most important thing, rather than some magical workout split or exercise or set rep pattern or anything like that. It's just the consistency. The consistency is what's going to move you in the right direction. All right, another question. What are some of the most underrated exercises or machines in your opinion? Good one. Underrated exercises. Well, I guess it really depends on who you're talking to, because like if you train with powerlifters, they're going to be doing different exercises and have different priorities compared to, say, like bodybuilders, who will have different exercises and priorities than athletes will, compared to your general, run-of-the-mill gym member who's in there just working out with no real rhyme or reason other than the fact that they want to work out consistently. Let's see. What are some underrated exercises? Farmer's walk is one that I think a lot of people could benefit from, and that you don't see done very much, but it's a great overall strength builder and conditioning builder, but it's one that you don't see a lot of people doing. Grip training is another one, especially like heavy grips, hand grippers, or similar type of grip training, pinch grip, things of that nature. The stronger your grip, the stronger you're going to be connected to the weights when you're lifting, and it's just going to help to increase your overall strength. And I'll give you an example that this to really drive my point home. If you try doing deadlifts or shrugs or rows or pull-ups or any exercise like that, and your grip is sweaty and slippery, you're not going to be able to get as many repetitions. You're not going to be feeling as solid as if you had a good, firm, secure grip. That's why lifting chalk can make such a huge difference. And then to take that to another level, lifting straps can make such a huge difference. So increasing your grip strength is going to carry over into increasing your strength for virtually every exercise that you do where you have to hold on to a barbell, dumbbell, or machine handle. So that's one of the most underrated things. What are some other ones? I'm trying to think here now. I guess a lot of work for the lower back. You know, most people tend to think of training the abdominals because they want to get like that six-pack abs. So you see when people think of core work, they're usually doing sit-ups and crunches and leg raises and planks and things to isolate the abdominals. But most people don't do nearly enough work for their lower back. So things like hyperextensions, really powerful. Good mornings. You know, exercises where you're really isolating that lower back area can have a huge impact and increase your overall strength and performance. So those are just a few exercises off the top of my head. I mean, we could really go over a lot more, but those few there, let's say the farmer's walk, grip work, and lower back isolation exercises, especially like hyperextensions and good mornings, I think are some of the most underrated exercises that can have a big noticeable impact in your overall strength and performance. All right, let's see what else. Okay, here's an interesting question. This one is from Jonathan. He says, how do you think you can overcome the fear of eating more when you have an eating disorder? Really love to train, but you're scared of gaining weight. Ooh, that can be tricky. I'm not qualified to really discuss eating disorders because eating disorders, that is a mental issue, right? I'm not a doctor or psychiatrist or anything like that. I mean, that goes beyond, you know, simply basic nutrition. You know, that goes beyond, you know, just counting your calories, protein, carbs, and fat and stuff like that. I mean, when people have an eating disorder, that is a mental issue. It's not necessarily a nutrition issue, even though, I mean, it's related to nutrition, obviously, but that really is going to require some sort of higher level thinking to deal with eating disorders. One of the things that I think could help is to basically educate yourself more on the concept of nutrition so that you understand how nutrition works and how the body works. So I mean, studying nutrition with an open mind, or at least as much as you can, will help. Because if you can understand how the body works hormonally to food, it will help to give you that open mind, or at least the mindset of let's try this and see what happens. Another thing is if you can just commit to a short-term phase. So, for example, like if someone is really afraid of eating more food, thinking that they're going to balloon up, and quite honestly, if you've been in a severe caloric deficit for a prolonged period of time, eating more food may actually temporarily, in fact, it will temporarily cause you to gain weight because your body's going to absorb, you know, muscle glycogen, it's going to absorb water and nutrients and fill out from that alone. But as far as actually gaining body fat, it's quite unlikely that that's going to happen unless, of course, you start, you know, binge eating on junk foods and stuff like that. But if you keep the quality of the food clean, the weight that is gained when someone is, you know, overcoming an eating disorder is usually going to be good quality weight. You know, lean mass is what's going to be gained. But again, I really, you know, I know it's a broad question here. You know, you're talking about an eating disorder. And again, I don't know if this is for you specifically or if it's for someone you know. Are we talking about a male, a female? I mean, you know, there's a lot of things going on here. But seeking some professional help would probably be the best thing to do. And I mean, I know if you go on Google search or if you call like some, you know, like local healthcare organizations in your area, I'm sure there are probably organizations out there that can help with eating disorders. I know there are where I live in the local city. I know people who actually worked in, you know, volunteered and helped out in such organizations. But somewhere where you're getting some support to help deal with that disorder is probably step one. And then step two would be to educate yourself on proper nutrition to understand how the body's actually going to respond and to kind of overcome the fear of what's going on, and try and have that rational base rather than this irrational fear base. But again, it's definitely a deep question, and one that I'm technically not qualified to answer. All right, where else? Okay, Lex is asking, do resistance bands build muscle? Any type of resistance exercise can build muscle as long as you train in a progressive overload fashion. So yes, you can build muscle using resistance bands. But from a practical point of view, it's going to be limited in terms of what you can do. I mean, for example, like, are you going to see a world-class bodybuilder or a world-class powerlifter who does resistance bands only? Very unlikely. I mean, it's hard enough to get to the world-class level when you have all the exercise equipment available. And so just limiting yourself to resistance bands, I mean, yeah, you can make progress, especially in that beginner phase. But as you get more advanced, you'll find that incorporating a wide variety of exercises, so free weights, machines, bands, body weight, basically the whole spectrum of exercises that you would have in a well-equipped gym will be your best option. But if you're looking at just getting started, or for like a temporary solution, for example, maybe you're going on vacation and you won't have access to a gym, can you maintain with resistance bands? Hey, absolutely, you can. If you want to just use resistance bands as like an extra workout at home, yeah, you know, that's fine as well. But as your only source of exercise, I personally wouldn't recommend it for the long term. I think you'd be much better off having a well-structured routine that includes a wide variety of exercises. All right. All right, we have Jay joining us, and he says, Lee, it's Jay here. You may know me from back in 2015 when I was on your Total Fitness Bodybuilding Inner Circle. I was Dennis. You helped me a long time ago, and now I'm dealing with forearm tendinitis. It's not getting much better, and they say I may have to get cortisone shots in a couple weeks with icing and anti-inflammatory. I just got the brace. Okay. I'm telling you, there was an article I read on T Nation that covers forearm, elbow tendinitis issues. I can't remember the exact name of the article. If you just go to Google and do a search for T Nation elbow tendinitis, you should find it. But it's a really good article. In fact, it's one of the better articles that I've ever read on the issue of dealing with tennis elbow and golfer's elbow. And it goes into not just the basic stuff of, you know, let it rest and recover and blah, 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 but actually goes into some specific rehab exercises and stretches and things that you can do to help actually deal with the issue. And it's a very detailed article. It goes into showing some, you know, pictures and videos and stuff of exercises that you can do to really help to stretch out your forearms, stretch out the tendons, and massage those tendons and ligaments. So again, just do a Google search for T Nation elbow tendinitis or T Nation tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, something like that. You should find it. I believe the article was written back around 2016 or somewhere in that range. And don't quote me on that. It's not a new article is what I'm trying to get at. It's a few years old, but it was one of the better articles that I've ever seen when it comes to dealing with elbow tendinitis issues. And I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was actually one of you guys, one of the regulars of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chats, emailed me the link to this article after last week's chat when I was discussing tennis elbow issues. So yeah, if you are dealing with this, I mean, it's a common issue. I mean, I've dealt with it over the years. Knock on wood, I haven't had to deal with elbow tendinitis for the past few years now. But if I do have it flare up again, I'm definitely going to be following the strategies that are covered in that T Nation article. So again, do a search for that, and it'll be very valuable. I've already recommended to several guys on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Inner Circle who are dealing with it, and so far the results have been positive. So that's what I would recommend. Okay, we got another question here. Let's see what else. I'm just going through some questions here. You got a lot of, for lack of a better, okay. All right, we got somebody here who's posted the question like about 10 times. Does masturbation affect the body? Does masturbation affect the muscles? Why don't you answer me? Does masturbation affect the muscles? I actually have a video about masturbation and bodybuilding, and I want you to go to my YouTube channel and find that video. And basically, I have a bit of fun with it, of course, and I make a big old joke about it. But the bottom line, masturbation or sexual activity is a normal part of being a human being. And does it affect the body? Yes, of course it's going to have an effect on the body. I mean, it's going to release hormones and everything else. But does it hinder your muscle building and fat loss goals? No. I mean, you can still build muscle. You can still burn fat. You can still achieve your physique, even if you have sex, or whether that's sex with another person or sex with your right or left hand, you can still build muscle even if you're masturbating. So there. Got the masturbation question out of the way, right? Now that I've said that, guess where he's going? He's turning off the video chat and he's going he's going to another website to find some some content to satisfy his urge. So I just gave him the green light to go ahead and choke the chicken. All right, I'm going to answer one more question. Let's see what else we got here. I'll try to answer a sensible one. Some of these questions are repeat questions. What's the best rep range to build muscle instead of just lifting to get stronger? Okay, this is a good one, and it's something that I've been utilizing recently, and I find that it's kind of like an underrated way of building muscular body weight and stimulating actual muscle growth. And that is to work through a wide range of repetitions and primarily pre-exhausting your muscles first with high repetition sets. This is something that I've just started using myself in my own training, and I find it very effective. So what I like to do now is start off with high repetition sets. So it's basically a warm-up set, but instead of just doing low repetition warm-ups, I'll actually do high repetition warm-up sets and push myself to the point of exhaustion with those high rep sets. So maybe 20, 25 reps, really get a lot of lactic acid fatigue in the muscles first, and then work into my lower rep, heavier weight sets. And what you'll find is by doing that, you really stimulate the full spectrum of muscle fibers. So you're going to pre-exhaust and fatigue the slow twitch fibers, which is going to help to stimulate growth in those fibers. And then as you work into the heavier weight, lower rep sets, you're going to stimulate the fast twitch fibers. And I find that working both, hitting exhaustion with both higher repetition ranges and lower repetition ranges, as well as moderate repetition ranges, is going to allow for maximum development. I know a lot of guys tend to just focus on, heavy low rep training because they want to focus on the strength. Sometimes you get some conditioning guys just want to do all light high rep stuff. But if you want maximum development, you really need to work in all the different repetition ranges. So that includes high rep sets. And when I mean high reps, like shoot for, say, like 20 or more repetitions in a set to really get the slow twitch fibers. Moderate rep, somewhere in that 10, 15 range. And then low rep where you're in, like, say, 5 to 10 rep ranges. And if you're working through all those different rep ranges, you're going to help to maximize muscle stimulation and muscle growth. All right, well, I'm going to get ready and clue this up, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We had a good chat, had some great questions come through, and I do appreciate your feedback and support. So what I'll be doing is I will have the replay of this posted up, and I will get the timestamps done up within the next 24 hours. So if you want to go back and re-listen to any of the questions, you can do so. Have yourself a great weekend, and I will talk to you next Friday. Take care. Over and out.